What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Jacqueline Akala, the voice and the ultimate vibe. I'm back with another word, or should I say a message from the Most High. Today, I want to talk about uprooting dead works. Let me tell you something. This one really hit home for me because as I was studying last night and I'm in my word, I kept writing down different topics that the Lord was giving me, and I just write the title down. But this one, it really stood out to me because this is something that I am doing currently. I am uprooting things that are dead. I am uprooting old methods that I used to use because my old ways cannot work in this season. It can't work in this new life. It can't work in this new body. I can't operate how I used to operate when I was in the world. And when I was in the world, I was dead. And when I say that is because we think that we have it all together. We think we live and we think we doing this and that, but truly and ultimately we're in bondage, And when you surrender your life to Christ, you should no longer be in bondage. You should no longer feel trapped. You should no longer feel like you're in a place where you're not moving forward, Because anything that the Lord does, it produces life. And what happens is we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to go back to the root of things. Sometimes we get into situations or circumstances where we think we can just move forward without figuring out the root of something. Like we can address something, but if we don't get to the root of something, it's just going to continue to resurface. That's why many of us find ourselves in cycles. We can be in a different place and repeating the same cycle. You can be on a different level and be repeating the same cycle. You can grow in different areas of your life, but there could be something in you that is not allowing you to be who God is truly calling you to be at your fullest potential. And that's because it's time for us to uproot the dead works. We are uprooting. We going all the way down. We going all the way down, and we're going to figure out what it is that is stopping you from fully coming into and becoming who God has called you to be. And when we talk about this, I just want you to be honest with yourself. Like I had to be honest with myself. Like I will have so many different ideas, and trust me, I am a creator, a very creative woman. Like anything I put my hands on, it's like turns into gold, right? When I do it for others. But when I do things for myself, I find this problem of I feel stuck. I'm always being stuck at some point, right? And that's because I have to realize what used to work for me, what used to work for you, it's not working now because our ways isn't God's ways. The way God operates, he doesn't operate how we operate. You know what I mean? And many times is we surrender our life to Christ. We say we surrender our life to Christ, but are we being obedient? Because you can surrender and not be obedient. Meaning you could be like, okay, God, I give my life to you. And then God tells you to do something, but you do something the opposite. And that's truly because you don't believe in that the Lord has the best option for you. You don't believe that the Lord way is going to work for you. But when you do things your way, you find yourself back to the drawing board trying to figure it out all over again. But if you truly trust the Lord and operate in his ways, you will see yourself continuously growing, continuously moving forward. You're going to always go forward because God has already went before us. So if he's already done everything before us, he's gave us the blueprint. And if you're not following that blueprint, that's why you're going to be in the same cycle, repeating the same things over and over and over and over and over. But if he's telling us exactly what to do and we do them, then it'll work. But if he's telling us the exact same things to do, but then we looking at the list, say we looking at the list, we looking at his blueprint, but we like, nah, I don't think that's going to work for me, Lord. That may not work for me. I'm going to try this way. The ways of man is not going to work for the Lord, okay? Because most of the time, our ways, they produce instant gratification. because that's just the flesh in us. Like, we can be doing something and we want results right then and there. We want results right then and there. The way the Lord operates is, it's not instant gratification. It's for the long term. Because if you're always fulfilled by instant gratification, anything can take you out instantly. But see, with the Lord wants to build a solid foundation. A solid foundation isn't going to be built overnight, right? It takes time. It takes work. It's a process, because during a process, you're going to learn the steps to keep going, to keep leveling up, to keep going, to keep leveling up. But see, what happens is we get into this place where when things don't work out how we want them to work out, and if we're not seeing results, we stop. Oh, this is probably not going to work. And then we get another idea, and then we start doing that. And we keep completing the same steps that we did in the last idea that we had. You know what I mean? And then we get stuck. We keep getting stuck at the same point. And why is that? Because we're doing it in our way. Now, when you made that decision to surrender your life to Christ, it's no longer you that you're living for. You're living for Christ. So you have to trust that he's using this body. He's using this vessel to do what he needs to do. So you have to sit back, and you're supposed to be dead to self anyway. So a dead person can't move, can't think. So you have to operate out of faith and just be like, okay, the Lord is within me. The Lord is operating this temple, this vessel. I can't try to control what the Lord is trying to do in me now. Okay? I just have to trust that what the Lord is going to do is going to get me to where he sees me. It's going to get me to my destiny, because we find ourselves going in circles over and over and over and over and over. And that's because it's time for us to uproot the dead works. We have to uproot our ways, because our ways wasn't producing life, you know? So our works are dead because it was only for instant gratification. Like, when you are fully and truly allowing God to use you, you have to operate out of faith. And faith is moving in what the Lord is telling you to move in. Even if it don't make sense, even if you can't understand it, you are trusting that God knows best. Why does the Lord know best? Because he already went before you. So basically, he's laying out a blueprint, and all he's asking us to do is follow it. If the Lord tells you to make a left turn, make a left turn. If the Lord tells you to make a right turn, make a right turn. If the Lord tells you to keep straight, keep straight. If the Lord tells you to be still and know that I am God. He already knows. He already knows. See, the problem is we don't know. So when we don't know something, we impatient. We need it to happen right now. We're going to do what we know is best, because that's what we used to do when we were living for ourselves. But we're not living for ourselves anymore. Because when you made that decision to live for God, there's a lot of other people connected to just that decision that you made. And you have to realize, dang, it's really not about me. Wow, Lord, you had me do this, and it ended up blessing this person. And then that person was able to go bless that person. And then it just goes on and goes on and goes on. It's producing life, you know? And we have to look at it too. It's like when you plant a seed in the ground and you water it that day, a tree's not going to just be there tomorrow. It takes time, you know? If you have a seed of some fruit and you put it in the ground and you water it that day, you're not going to get your apple or whatever it was that you put in the ground the next day. It has to take time of being watered, and then you're learning the process of how it works. Some days it might rain, some days it may not. Some days it might be dry, some days it's going to be moist. But the more and more you continue to water it, no matter the circumstance or situation, you're going to see something grow out of it, right? So that is why it's very important that we are dead to self and we are allowing Christ to work through us, because his ways aren't our ways. I want to go to Proverbs 14 verse 12. This is out of the King James Version. It says, there is a way which seemeth right unto man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Like, we may think the things that we are doing are right because it has worked before. You know what I mean? But ultimately, it leads us to death because it's not producing life. You know, like what we may think is right, it's not always right, because it's only to satisfy our flesh. You know, is it really satisfying the soul? Is it fulfilling the soul? And most of the time it's not. And I realize that's why there's so many creatives, so many entrepreneurs that's feeling stuck in this hour and in this season, because they're seeing so many people around them growing and elevating, and they're seeing the Lord accelerate them. But when it comes to them, they're like, wow, Lord, like, I have all these talents, but nothing's being multiplied, Lord. I have all this stuff, but nothing seems to work for me. And the Lord is saying, simply because it's time for you to uproot the dead works. I can't operate it when you're trying to operate. You are supposed to be dead to self. Allow me to use you to do what I know is best for you. And it just comes into a place of us realizing that it is truly a process. Okay, so accept this new process, accept this new walk, accept this new journey, and do the work. You have to do the work. And when you really start to put in the work, you see why the Lord wants you to put in the work. There's things that you're going to learn as you are going through that process, that if you just continue to think that you can just go from A to B and then jump all the way to Z without going through a process, guess what's going to happen? You're going to crumble when you come across something that you don't know. You're going to get blocked again because you got to a point where it's something you don't know and you don't know how to move around it. That's what happens when you keep trying to start new businesses or start new ideas and do new things, but you're not allowing yourself to go through a process with just one thing. You know? Now, it's a difference when you fully accomplish one thing and then you find yourself knowing, okay, that worked. So then it's like, okay, I can produce something else, because you actually went through a process to know. But if you never fully went through a process to see one thing come to life and you just jump to something else and jump to something else, you're always going to find yourself repeating a cycle. And this is the time for us to no longer continue to go through the same cycles. We have to uproot those dead works. We have to uproot our old ways. We have to uproot the ways that we used to operate. We have to uproot it and allow Christ to fully manifest in us and allow his ways to be done. Allow Christ's way to be done. Just allow Christ to live through us. And that is a process of us dying to self every day and going through the process. Whatever the Lord has told you to do in this season, do it and take yourself through the process. I know it's so much on social media where we'll get online and we see somebody doing something and we're so quick to jump to it to try to do it, and we find it not working. Go through the process of what the Lord has for you. Even if it don't make sense, even if it might take you longer, I promise you it's going to pay off. You have to lock in with self. You have to lock in with the Lord. Just you and the Lord. Just you and the Lord. I don't care what so-and-so is doing. I don't care what it may look like. You have to go through the process. God is trying to use you. You know, he has you on an assignment. And the only way you're going to be able to complete your assignment is if you go through the process. You're going to see why the Lord wants you to go through the process. Because he needs to use you. He can't use you if you don't know the foundations of the blueprint. So yes, let's take this time to uproot our dead works. Let's take this time to really analyze our ways of thinking. What methods do we usually use to get things done? Go down a list and be like, okay, I can't do this no more because that doesn't work. I can't do this no more because that doesn't work. I can't do this no more because that doesn't work. Okay, let me see what the Lord has done in my life and it has worked. What steps have I followed when obeying the Lord has worked for me? And those are the steps. That's the way you want to continue to go. You don't want to continue to do things that you used to do in the past that no longer worked for you, because all it's going to do is continue to have you going in a cycle, in a cycle, in a cycle. This isn't the time to keep repeating the cycle. It's time for us to keep moving forward. It's time for us to elevate. It's time for us to see the things that the Lord has for us. We're never going to get there if we keep repeating the cycles. And this is really for me, because I found myself like, let me tell you, there's so much greatness in me. And the Lord is like, no, trust me, that stuff can happen. But I need you to go through the process to see why and to know how to operate those things when the time has come. It's just like when someone first lays down and they're intimate with each other and the sperm goes into the woman and then it attaches to the egg. That baby ain't gonna be born the next day. You know what I mean? It takes 9 months for a baby to be born. Sometimes babies are born prematurely, right? But what happens when a baby is born prematurely? They have to develop. You know, just because they're here, there's still some things in them that has to develop. So we don't want to continue to prematurely birth things that the Lord has given us. We want it to be fully developed, and then it comes to life. So take this time to allow the Lord to develop the things that you are working on, to develop your talents, to develop your gifts. But you must start the process. You have to start somewhere. And everybody is going to look different. For everybody, it's going to look different. But what I'm telling you is to even do that, to even allow the Lord to develop what's in you, you have to uproot the dead works. You have to uproot your old ways, your old methods, and be okay with giving the Lord the full lead. Okay? I love you guys so much. Meditate on Proverbs 14:12. It'll really help you. And let me see if I have any other notes. I mean, that's what I have for now, but this is a message that I truly am going to want to elaborate on more, because it's so good. And this is something that I have to realize too, because most of the time our dead works, it stems from instant gratification. It stems from being in survival mode. Like when you're in survival mode, you just do things to get by. But what the Lord has in the kingdom, it's not about just getting by. You can't save souls with just trying to get by. You know what I mean? There has to be a foundation laid. There has to be things built and built and built. And the only way to build something is to go through a process. If you have an idea for a house and you see the ground, you can't just go, oh, the house is just going to be there. No, you have to build it, and it takes steps to build a house. So what the Lord is trying to do right now, it's going to take some steps, and it's going to be a process. But you just got to be willing to go through it, because the Lord isn't going to give you something and expect it to happen overnight. You know, He is a supernatural God. He can do whatever He wants, but He needs us to be willing to uproot our dead works. We have to get out of God's way. And most of the time we are in the way. That's why we get stuck. That's why we feel stagnant, because we're not following the blueprint. We only follow the blueprint up until it benefits us. Until we have to actually do some work, we no longer want to find it. But that's not what this season is going to require. This season is going to require your effort, your full attention, and for you to be truly locked in with the Lord. Okay? I love you guys. I hope this message helped you guys. Take time to tell a friend. Go ahead, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again. Mwah.